Today I'm going to show you how a few small tweaks can transform the look of the decor that you already have, furniture items. Sometimes it's just simply paint that can really give a piece new life. And also I'm going to take you on a little adventure and tell you what is coming in the future on this channel. So let's get started with our first project. This is like an IKEA hack for the second or third time, I don't know. This IKEA piece, which is a Hemnes dresser, has seen this, I think it's its third or fourth iteration. Obviously, it first started out as the original Hemnes dresser. It was white. It's one that I inherited when we purchased our last home. It just read a little bit feminine in the room that it was in. It ended up being my son's dresser, so I wanted it to give it a little bit more of a masculine feel. And so all I did in that transformation is simply paint it out in a black chalk paint, just the fronts of the drawers. And I also did some vinyl decals that said number 1, number 2, number 3 to kind of give it I don't know, like a locker feel. And I did like a reverse stencil, put those on, and painted the black chalk paint over the top of that, reinstalled the hardware, and that was it for that transformation. But it was really great. It definitely gave it a little bit more of a masculine feel in my son's bedroom. But now he got a larger bedroom here, and so he got a larger dresser. And if you haven't seen that makeover, I'll link it below. This is for my youngest son. My oldest son's bedroom makeover will be coming up in the near future. So I had this dresser, and we just moved into a new house. It was actually the perfect size for our new guest bedroom, which is what was supposed to be the office, but now it's gonna work as our guest bedroom. And this is not like a bedroom makeover. This is me simply transforming a couple of the pieces in this bedroom to make it work until we do an actual bedroom makeover in there. So all of my color schemes really center around this one piece of fabric that is kind of the inspiration piece for this entire room. And that's how design works, is you find one thing that really speaks to you, and then you kind of build something around that. And that's what this piece of fabric is. So I'm pulling some of the colors out of this fabric for some of the things that we're working on today. And so this dresser, I decided to pull out some of the sage bluish green color that's in this fabric, and that's what color we're gonna now paint the dresser. So and when I say we, just as a reminder, you and I, we're doing this project together. So all we're gonna do is we are gonna paint this in place because I didn't have a lot of help around when I was ready to do this project. The boys were out on a camping trip. So I just decided to paint this in place just to make it a little bit easier on me. But I just installed new wood floors, and I didn't want to get any paint on that. So what I did is I lifted up the dresser, and I had some cutoffs from my master bedroom shelves that I just cut, and I put those under each one of the feet. So that lifted it up so we could easily paint the feet without getting anything on it. And then I just protected the floor around it with some thick wrapping paper that I taped to the floor, and boom, we are protected. So then I removed everything out of the drawers, and I removed the hardware. And then I decided, because of the little raised effect from the reverse stencil that I did with the number 1, number 2, number 3, I tried hand sanding it. I'm just gonna take a little sanding sponge and sand that down, so hopefully it doesn't peek through when we paint. Well, that cleaned up really nicely, but it still doesn't match the room, so we're gonna still do something with it. So I took it outside and took my palm sander and just sanded that down really, really well. And then I took some folk art sage paint, which is kind of a really pretty aqua color, and painted the front of the dressers outside. And then I went about painting the main body in this chalk paint. I ended up doing 2 coats for the most part. When I ended up scraping the bottle of the empty jar to do the top, it hadn't really mixed in well, so you could see some of the brush strokes. So then I had to repaint that for a third time. I had to get like a whole new bottle, which is fine, and I repainted the top just to fix that inconsistency. And then I let everything dry. And then here's where things got a little dicey. I picked up this varnish from Michael's by Folk Art, and I'm like, well, that should work with, folk art product. This did not go well. I'll just have to say. So I did the varnish and immediately, usually I can squeeze on some paint and brush it out and it looks good, but instantly when I squeezed on that paint, it instantly changed the color of the paint, and I was like, well, maybe it's just having a reaction. Maybe when I, brush it all out, it will be fine. So I just kept pushing on, but I wasn't gonna do the whole dresser because I wasn't really willing to risk it. But I figured, worst case scenario, if it made the top weird, we'll just go back in and paint it again. So it made it look weird. So even after letting it dry and all of that overnight, I came back and I was like, ugh. It still looks weird. So I took the chalk paint and just re-chalk painted the top. So that's what we've got: 2 coats of paint, then the 3rd coat of paint to fix the weird streak marks, then the polyurethane or the varnish, that's 4, and then I had to repaint it with the chalk paint. So that has like 5 layers of paint on it. And at this point, I'm like, you know what? I do have some wax that I know works with chalk paint, but it's buried in my boxes of my craft room, which I have not unpacked yet because I'm just trying to take it one space at a time. And I'm like, I'm just gonna let it be for now. So we'll let the chalk paint cure a little bit more and maybe I'll come back in and varnish it later. So I just ordered some new hardware off of Amazon and I'll link it below, but it's this really cool antique looking hardware, the round ones with the ring poles. I just thought that would elevate the piece so much, and it did. It is so beautiful, but I still felt like it was needing a little something extra. So I also ordered several little key plates that I wanted to put on at least one of the drawers. So I went with this one and I installed it, and it really did lift and elevate that piece. And now this piece that was just your generic IKEA Hemnes dresser that you've seen everywhere now kind of has a very vintage, antique feel, from the chalk paint to the vintage looking hardware on it. I just love it. And it's kind of light and bright and fresh. It's kind of this color a little bit, actually. I didn't plan that, but I love how this turned out. I'm gonna live with it for a while, and who knows, maybe down the road, we might change the color again and it will have a 4th and 5th iteration. But for now, I think this is gonna look great in that guest bedroom. Okay, so before we move on to my next project, I wanted to take you on a little adventure with me. So very recently, I went to Cancun, Mexico, and this is my first time going to Mexico. So we've been working really hard moving, and now we are gonna go on a workcation, but hopefully we'll be able to get some work done as well as a little bit of fun. But we're headed to Cancun. Ready? We're here. So pretty. What do you think, honey? You like it?
It's nice.
It was a work trip for YouTube as well as for just fun. So we're doing a little shopping here. You having fun, honey?
Yes. Cancun is great.
Yeah.
First time here.
I was able to visit Chichen Itza, which was so amazing. All right, so we just arrived at Chichen Itza and we're gonna go check it out. So we're with some...
7th wonder of the world.
Yeah, it's super, super awesome. So I'm gonna take you along.
Man-made wonder of the world.
Man-made, I guess, yeah.
You had me at a
All right, here we are. We're starting our trek in. I can see it. Do you want to see it? One of 7 wonders of the world. Let's go see right now. That is quite amazing. Wow.
Bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Huge.
You had me at a low.
This was built to last. This was built solid. But it's lasted all these years. It's incredible.
You had me at a low. 'Cause where you go is where I go. You had me at a low.
Evidence that Daryl Eves wears something other than jeans.
That's right. That's none of the truth.
'Cause where you go is where I go. You had me
Look, it's ancient tic-tac-toe. How cool is that?
'cause where you go is where I go. I don't need nobody else. I got you, and you got me too.
So that was a really neat experience. But my main reason for going was to learn more about how to get my message out there. And the message is, I am not the best DIYer on the planet, and I'm not the best decorator. I am constantly trying to level up my game and improve. But the one thing that I want to be the very best at is being your cheerleader and really getting the message of finding and discovering your inner power out there to as many people as possible. I want to create a sisterhood of women who lift each other up, elevate each other, cheer each other on, and champion each other, because I feel like it's far too easy and there's far too much like tearing each other down out there in the world. And so my mission is to be your cheerleader, to elevate women, to help them to get brave and bold in whatever it is, whether it's DIY and home decor. I'm assuming since you're watching me that is of interest to you. And so that brings me back to why I was there in Cancun, and that was to learn about dubbing my videos into many different languages. And the cool thing about this technology, AI, I'm going to tell you, it's both exciting and terrifying all at the same time. But what I really love about this technology that I have access to now is that we can spread this message of love and lifting up and sisterhood to people in their native tongues. And the really cool thing is they are able to take my voice. So they're hearing my voice, but it's in another language, like Spanish.
Bien, hemos trabajado muy duro. La renovación del baño está terminada y estoy ansioso por mostrarla.
And I just launched a Spanish channel. If you have any Spanish speaking friends, definitely tell them about it. The next one I'm hoping to launch, and I don't know exactly like the timeline of all of these things, will be a German channel and then a French channel. And then we'll keep going as we, to try to get this message out to as many women that I can hopefully help lift up in some small ways. I hope you'll join me on this journey as well, and I just wanted to share that with you. So now let's get into our next DIY. My next DIY is these two nightstands that I had. And one of them I had actually done on this channel before is when I took some that I found at the thrift store and I did a black wash on them, and it was gorgeous. It was so beautiful. I never did the companion one just because I never found the time. I had like the time to do the one. This time around, I was like, we're not doing that. So we're doing both. I didn't think that black was the right color for the palette that I'm creating in that room, even though I'm gonna have lots of pops of black around my house. This room really was speaking to me something a little bit more serene and neutralized. This time around, I felt like I could manage getting these nightstands out into my shop to spray them. And first of all, this is a very intricate pattern on these nightstands. And so hand painting all of those little nooks and crannies, it was not gonna happen. So I got my dolly and I'm gonna go ahead and wheel this out to my workshop, but I just wanted to show you one real quick thing because I am gonna paint it out there. The other one of these that this matches has like a little back plate behind it, and this one did not have it, and I want them to match, so I actually found this at Hobby Lobby, and I'm gonna go ahead and remove this knob and save it for something else, but use this back plate to kind of mimic the one that's on the other one, so they look more like a set. So this is not a color name. I will try to put if you like this color, I will try to put like the code in the description box, because all I did is I took like a spray paint can lid that matched up with one of the colors in this fabric that we're kind of using as our inspiration, and I had them color match it, so it's not an actual color. And I sprayed this, and this was super easy. So you can change the directions on the paint sprayer to get it going the way you want, and I just sprayed them out. So it did a great job spraying it, but obviously if everything's closed, then that happens. So I'm just gonna take a brush here and just brush the edges on. And then I left the inside of the nightstands just the wood tone, and I'm fine with that. But on the outside, it's this really, really pretty taupe color. This was a cabinet enamel, and I will just say up front, I didn't prime these. The one had been painted in a chalk paint before, so that's kind of like a primer-ish. But sometimes I like to test things out just to see how they hold up. And what I've noticed about using cabinet enamel, and I'm saying, let me just be clear, best practice is to prime everything. I couldn't easily find the primer that I wanted. And on my china hutch, I used a cabinet enamel on the exterior of that, and I did not prime it, and it's still holding up great several years later. So I'm like, let's test this out. You know, these nightstands aren't gonna be getting heavy use. They might be okay, especially if I let it cure really well. So I did not prime these. I'll let you know in a few months how they're holding up, but I've had good luck in the past, but I'm just gonna say, best practice, prime it. This was like, let's get this done and we'll see how it goes. So you'll notice that I did paint over all the hardware in that color. I'm gonna live with it like this. I think it adds an interesting texture to the piece, being tone on tone. And then maybe down the road, if I feel like I don't like it, or I may spray it out in a metallic finish, whether that's something like a brushed nickel or something like the brass that's on the dresser in that room. I'm really liking it as is because it has all the intricate pattern on it. What do you think? Would you paint out the hardware or would you leave it as is? Let me know in the comments section below. I always love to get your feedback on this. I had these extra flowers in a pot from my last house. I just thought I would whip up a cute little arrangement to put on one of the nightstands for now. And then I'm gonna rummage through with some of my home decor and fluff up the room eventually. But right now I just wanted to focus on a couple of things. And all I did is you can bend these, you can clip these flowers. I went with some bluish greenish ones. I originally bought these at Hobby Lobby and I think they still have these, but I've had these in my last house. I'm just gonna tuck a few hydrangeas, a few of these like cabbage looking roses, and just make a simple one. There's like no rhyme or reason. You just have to make it like look like it would in nature. That's always what I try to say with floral arranging. You don't want things very stiff and upright. You kind of want things flowing and kind of going like they would in nature. That's what you try to do when you floral arrange. It's not really like rocket science, at least for these type of arrangements. There are some that have a little bit more technique to it, but something like this, anybody can do. I'm a firm believer that you can absolutely do this yourself. Okay, I couldn't just leave the fabric alone. I mean, I got this fabric at Hobby Lobby on clearance, I believe for $3 a yard, and I just thought it was pretty. I have an issue buying fabric that I don't really need, especially if it's at a really good price and tucking it away for later. It goes into that like little bit of hoarderness that I have. Oh dear. Anyways, I'm using this piece of fabric. So we're going to make a quick, simple pillow out of this. And I'm going to use some cording to create like a little piping in it. And you take about 1.5 inches strip of fabric, and you can just, a lot of people will tell you need to do it like on the bias so it can stretch and all that. I have been sewing forever and I've never had any issues, and you actually will save so much more fabric just cutting strips of fabric, and I've never had any issue or anything. So that is one rule I have no problem breaking. I've been sewing long enough that I would say I'm a pretty decent seamstress and I break all kinds of rules. So then also for the pillow section, you're just gonna add about 3/4 inch on either side to the width and length of the dimensions of the pillow, of course. We stitch on the piping on one side, and that's dual purpose to hold it in place, but also because we're gonna leave a little section open to stuff the pillow in. And then we're going to just kind of clamp it down, pin it down, however you wanna do it, and stitch, starting on the bottom, but leaving a gap, and you go all the way around, leaving a pretty decent sized gap. Cut out the corners, flip it, stuff your pillow. Now you could do a zipper if you want, and I've also done pocket pillows, but this time I'm just gonna sew it into place, and you just tuck that excess in, either pin or pinch it into place, and then stitch that closed as close to the edge as possible while still being able to catch the fabric. We're trying to hide this within the piping on the bottom side of the pillow, so hopefully that all makes sense. And that's it. you have a pillow. I am such a huge advocate for sewing. Sewing is not very hard. I think the most difficult part is just figuring out like how to thread it. If you get a machine that's easy enough that you don't have to mess with the tensions and all of that very often. Home decor sewing is straight stitching at its finest, and so I love that, and I love how this little pillow turned out, and it was the inspiration for all of this. Well, I hope you've enjoyed seeing me transform things that I already had to work in my new space, and I hope that you found inspiration, that maybe you can move something over here and give it new life and give it a new look and really refresh your space into something that you absolutely love through just a few very strategic tweaks. And that's my goal today with this episode, was just to give you some ideas and get your wheels spinning, and I hope that that helped you. And if you enjoyed this episode, here's another one that I think you'll like as well. And to all of my DIY goddesses out there, you are more powerful than you know. Well, I truly believe that. We'll see you next time. Bye.